Well, good morning to the Bureau part 3 video. The first thing we should actually really do is, give me this for a second. I'm Larry, obviously, and this is Danielle. And Danielle is pretty petite as she is. She does an awful lot of work in this workshop. She does every bit of sanding from every bit of timber that's gone out in any project that we've done. Look at this, our arms are getting bigger all the time. So that's Danielle. I often refer to her on the videos as Dee, or on the page as Dee, so people just call her Dee for short, because nobody really remembers her name. I don't know why Danielle is such a hard name to remember. Hand that back to you. Now, first thing to do when you're buying paint is choose your colours. And I can now reveal the colours that we're going to use, which is French Oak, Lazy Range, and it's a colour called Plum Pudding. And we have this one, which is in the Alfresco range, and it's a colour called City Slicker. Great thing about French Oak paints is that they're interusable. We can use one colour with another, or one type of paint with another. The Alfresco is rated outdoors. The Lazy Range basically is infused with wax, and we're going to use some of this as well, which is brown and wax. And some of the timber we're going to seal with French Oak finishing coat. The reason we use French Oak paints is because they're very low VOCs. There's no VOCs in them. They're rated for use on children's toys and animal enclosures and the like. That's our security. Don't mind her. And we have some banging going on out the back. Toodles! Stop barking. I'm on video here. Live video, huh? Well, it's not live, but you get my meaning. Where was I? Yes, the Lazy Range is wax infused, the Alfresco is rated outdoors, and the wax that can be used outdoors is, these are all self-sealing paints, self-priming paints, and self-leveling paints. The finishing coat, if you're using the Artisan range or the original range in French Oak, you will need to use this over it, because basically that Artisan, that range isn't self-sealing. Another point about French Oak paint is that they're a little bit expensive, but I know when I go to bed at night nobody's getting poisoned from a piece that we've made or painted. Now, being it some of the outdoor stuff, Toodles! Some of the outdoor stuff that we use is Ronseal Fence Life, and that's just cost effectiveness for the particular piece that we're going to make. If I was to put French Oak on everything, we'd never sell anything. We'd have to add the price of the paint actually onto the piece. So, now, okay, next thing you're going to need is a good quality soft bristle brush. A lot of people opt for the French Oak brushes themselves. I personally don't, because I just feel they're a bit overpriced, and there's plenty of brushes out there that, you know, are equally as good and a fraction of the price, to be honest. You're going to need a gloss roller. A gloss roller, compared to a normal roller, is just sponge. A normal roller for emulsion paint would be kind of like woolly or hairy, if you like, but these put a nice finish on them, especially with French Oak paints, because they're self-leveling. And then you'll need your paint tray. The other thing you're going to need when you're painting or prepping for paint is sugar soap, which is here. Every piece, before you go near it with a sander, make sure you sugar soap it down and clean it down, get all the grease and stuff like that off it. It might seem weird. The reason for that is that if there's dirt on the piece and you sand it, you're going to put micro scratches basically into the piece itself. What'll happen with grease and the like, you'll sand the grease basically into those micro scratches. So clean thoroughly first, and make sure you look at the piece, because some people just rub a sponge over it. That's not good enough. You actually have to get a sponge and use the scour inside of it, and make sure that that piece is absolutely clean, because the paint won't stick otherwise. So once it's cleaned down, you can go on to sanding. We opt for sanders for speed. Some people do hand sanding. For anything that's kind of glossy and it's solid enough, all you really need is a light sanding down, because it's just really you're keying a surface. You're putting micro scratches in that the paint can actually cling onto. And on some gloss surfaces we'll actually do a bit of a wet sand because it's less likely to actually leave scrapes or scratches that will actually come through on the paint. Wet sanding, you have to buy different sandpaper for that, and that's called wet and dry sandpaper, obviously, for obvious reasons. And that's probably what we're going to do with some of the lacquered surfaces. We gave them a light sand already. I'm going to give them another light sand. They're going to be washed again. So basically what you need to do is go have a cup of tea and come back to me in about 2 seconds. Well, now we have the bureau back stripped down and we're getting ready for paint. For the timber, as I say, we're going with brown and wax, and this is like this, just to show you a before and after. This is the little shelves that are going inside into the bureau, into the waiting area, and this is timber that hasn't been done yet. There is no big secret to waxing. You can buy expensive waxing brushes and stuff like that. We just simply use a cloth. You get exactly the same result, and as I say, the rustic look is what we're going for, and that's the perfect colour for what we're doing. So just make sure no rust. When waxing, it's as simple as put a bit on the cloth. You're kind of putting a bit more on than you actually need to do. But tend to go with the grain as much as possible. In little areas that you'll have to do little circles in, but go with the grain as much as possible. Put some wax on, spread it out. To do this on a warmish day, because the wax is more pliable and easy to use. And waxing, we like using waxes because it actually brings up the grain. People use varnishes, stains. We like using this because it's healthier for the environment. And if you decide to change the colour, it's just a quick sand really. What wax will actually do is seal the timber as well, and because it's liquid-like substance, it's actually very good for the timber. It won't allow the timber to dry out. Now, once you have your area done, it's a case of go over with another part of the cloth to take off your excess. Don't take it all off. Taking off any excess, you let it dry, and when it's buffed it becomes lovely and smooth. And while Dee is inside doing some waxing, I've taken the opportunity and outside going to do some painting on some of the pieces. This plum pudding colour actually dries a little bit more purple or a little bit more mauve than pink, but again, put your paint in your tray, make sure your roller is primed. Don't do what I'm doing at the moment, which is painting in direct sunlight, especially hot sunlight, because it can be detrimental to the paint finish. But we use these type of rollers because it does give a nice smoother finish. Just go over the piece for your first coat and go over it lightly, then take any excess off. And then do the pieces of the bits of the piece that you want and that are going to be facing outwards. There's a lot of debate sometimes on whether to do the inside of a unit or not. You don't paint the inside of a drawer basically, because a drawer will just get very sticky on you because you're actually adding material onto the inside of a drawer. So my advice is never ever paint the inside of a drawer because you'll only end up sanding it back off. But that's basically how that colour is going to be. I'll go off camera again just to finish this piece off because I need my two hands. But moving on. Okay, this is one of the doors, and this one has a lacquered varnished finish on it. So we're going to be painting it, and as I said, these types of surfaces I like to generally wet sand. The only really thing what I would never recommend wet sanding is MDF, because if it gets wet at all it starts to swell. So we have a bottle just with water, bit of a spray, and paper. And sand in the direction of the grain. I was unfortunate enough to have a car accident. This is actually how they'll do the final sands on a car, wet sanding, before it finally goes to paint. So I can tell you, you get such a gloss finish on a car. Sand it, it's just a matter of cleaning it off again and washing it down and drying it off, and it's almost ready for painting. Helpful hint when you're in between coats is to use one of these. The bags for picking up doggy poop, but they're nice, they're handy, they're small. Just put your roller inside it and just wrap it around the handle and put something solid and flat over your tray. It stops everything from drying out on you, so you don't have to wash the stuff out in between coats. This is just basically to give you a look between coats. This is just on its first coat and that's on its second. I've a piece in here as well that's on its second coat. It just gives you an idea of the depth of this colour, which is really, really nice. And Danielle is still waxing the sides. I'll just hand this to Danielle for a second. This is really going to conclude the end of the bureau video. I hope there was some kind of good tips and hints in it, but basically it's going to be a lot of the same in the previous clips of sand, paint, and second coats and stuff like that. I don't want to give too much away on the video because I want to do the final reveal as I normally do with wow, this piece is finished now. There are going to be other bits and pieces that we're going to paint on it, like the mechanism for lifting the lid, and I'm not sure if I'm going to paint the hinges or the knobs yet, but basically anything that you're going to paint, it's going to be the same. It's clean, it's going to be sand, and then it's going to be clean again, and then it's paint. With metals, you can use French ink paints, but generally I like a spray finish on the metal pieces, especially if I'm using silver or copper or something along the lines of that, or even black. But the only difference there is it will be sanded. I'll prime it first before I paint it, and you just, you know, it's just good sense, it's good practice. But I want to thank you for looking at the 3 videos, and we will do more videos. I'm going to do some videos on different types of tools that will be useful for a beginner, and we're going to do I'll do a video where we're actually prepping and painting some metals as well, like door handles and the like. But again, I want to thank you. We got to get back to work and get this piece finished, and we will do the reveal then, as I say, on the page. So thank you very much.